I have no idea what that means, and I certainly have no idea why you need commercial grade septic systems on residential property. Dan, do you have any idea?
The last few that went in the county had more than 4 lots, but they have raised mount systems, like they did out in on D Road in Stonecrest. That's the only thing I can think of that is talking about.
Well, that I guess is not workable. But if private sewer isn't available, and if public sewer isn't available because they need easements to connect, then it isn't available. If they don't have the easement, then they got to have private septic, and if they have to have private septic, they have to have by county approval. So that's to me the most difficult of the punch list of things that have to be resolved to get the plat.
Tom, I spoke with Ron. My understanding is if we approve the plat, then we have 4 residential lots. Bi-county health then looks at it under the residential rule, and each lot can have a residential septic system, which then fits.
All I know is if you approve the plat and record it, you're representing the public that all that's available at that time.
All what's available?
Water, sewer, electric. They can go out there, get a building permit to build a house, and they can make all the connections required to live in that house under existing codes and ordinances, and that's what you're telling us.
We're actually working on a sewer plan. I have an engineer that's working on it now. They actually tell me they're 80% sure that I can get sewer to the property. So it's my desire and my intent to put sewer on the property. In my best interest, my lots are worth a lot more with sewer on there, and no one wants to do it with septic systems. So my goal is to put sewer on here.
Do you have a time frame for that?
Before any lot will be built.
Well, and that's what the ordinance says.
It needs to be designed, and I can't. I just found out about this morning, so for me to come up with a sewer plan right quick is all in minutes.
Well, we don't approve on those things.
Well, the condition. Well, and that's what those are your decisions to make. I'm just giving you the the advice. I'm not recommending this. It's a very when you have these small lot developments, they're constantly caught up with the regulations that apply to subdivision. But if you're going to create a building lot, it has to be a lot you can build on and live in the house. So, and you're telling people when you do that it is. But the conditional approval that I wrote up here as a possibility to resolve this is that they will connect the public sewer, which you're saying they will. But it's when you sell the first lot, they're going to do it then. But with that, we're going to record the ordinance. So, when you buy a lot from you or anybody else, especially if the bank's involved, they're going to go run the title. And when they run the title, if we record this ordinance, it's going to be in a chain. And they're going to know, they don't look at plat. They refer to restrictions, to encumbrances and restrictions that are on a plat. Nobody ever goes and checks these plats. If you're a home buyer or a title company, they immunize themselves, they disclaim by just referring to the fact that anything that's on the plat you're buying subject to, but nobody looks. But if it's in the ordinance, they will look and know that they have to connect, and that they'll have that cost. But the cost won't happen to you, it'll happen to them when you start selling these lots and they're done. But somebody's got to do it. You can't sell a lot with no...
And the thing is about the availability is the length. According to what the property is annexed by the city, the length is greater than the city would accept.
Well, the state statute says 200 feet,
correct. So
but you also have to have an easement. If you're next door, but you can't get an easement to connect, if you have to have an easement to route it there, it's not available.
Correct. We didn't include an easement for sewers on the plat.
Yeah, but we're off premises. Where is the sewer? According to Ron, it's down the hill quite a ways, or you have to core under the Jump Road,
or go back to the garden and tunnel under. But there's 2 options.
But there's a lot of expense involved there. But somebody's going to have to do it if you're going to sell lots.
Which is our intention.
So Tom, we could approve the plat subject to sewer must be available before a lot of sewer.
That's what it says. That's in the
So
ordinance.
right now, the ordinance.
That's as good as I can make it. I mean, we're really laboring it.
Right. So right now, the ordinance that we have in front of us has a sidewalk variance in it.
Well, there's another variance, but I don't deem it as critical. I think you need to know all the variances if you're going to vote. Our subdivision code requires that the subdividers required, if there's a road or street adjoining the subdivision, you're required to dedicate the right-of-way of that road or street, whether you own it or you think you don't own it. It's a title clearance protection thing, and it's in our ordinance, so it's a code compliance required thing. The surveyor that surveyed the subdivision says, according to his survey, non-adjacent road is in that subdivision, and he don't want it in his owner's dedication certificate, so they want a variance for that. And one other thing that Ron said he would take care of is a housekeeping thing. It's on the plat on lot 1. It says B1 for the brick ordinance. It should say BF. We don't. I understand why he might have done that, but our code is BF, B3, and up BO. So, but that's not a. I don't see that as of any consequence, as long as it gets fixed before it gets recorded.
So we have 5 variances.
5 variances.
Sidewalk, the mortgage clause, masonry, sanitary sewer, dedication property.
That's it.
The way the ordinance is written right now, if we were to pass this, all those would have to be met.
Yeah. Well, the sewer thing would be met at the time anybody comes in for a building, but it would be met.
And the masonry would have to go through the process.
You have to go through the variance. I don't see any way to get around that if you comply with
And then
this
everything
thing.
else we're signing off on. So I would not sign the plat until those things were met.
Until all the reimbursement of fees was made, and you went to the zoning board, had the public hearing, and it came back here, then you can sign it.
If he's asking for a variance on the sidewalks,
Yep.
I would not be in favor of that. I mean, we're trying to get our kids off the streets and out of Gent Road. And even though this may not connect other sidewalks, someday we can have grants or the money to put in the rest of the sidewalks. So as a subdivision, I could not vote for a variance that doesn't require the sidewalks. So we're going to consequence that.
I would agree with that statement. One of the biggest issues on John Road is the ability to walk up and down the street there, whether it's Cadern or whether it's Coney Lakes up there, 2 or 3, so to Main Street. But I think if we don't put that in there, we're setting a bad precedent for future subdivisions.
That's why I'm here to take out the sidewalk variance.
That's correct. That's what I'm advocating.
So then it would be 4 variances: the mortgage issue, the masonry issue, the sanitary sewer, and the dedication. Not necessarily variances, but issues.
I guess I have a question. If we take out the mortgage subordination agreement, and I didn't put it in the ordinance, are we going to require a 45-foot side yard on that side until there would be a mortgage release or a mortgage subordination?
I just like to ask Tom if that's his recommendation.
Well, I would say, and Al too, Al Holden.
And it would read that once that was released, then it would resort back to the 15-foot, so it's the same net result.
So you got a legal side yard if they foreclose.
So if they foreclose, we have a legal side lot. If they don't foreclose, it goes to 15.
The whole lot.
We still have a legal side lot. Okay. Alderman Stone?
Tom, is it normal that we would pass an ordinance before we'd have a public hearing and a vote at a zoning board of appeals meeting?
Not if there's a zoning ordinance variance. It's not typically done unless there's a zoning ordinance variance. And the brick requirement is a zoning ordinance variance, so that's why.
So before we vote on this, it should actually go through the zoning board of appeals process.
Well, that would be the more normal process.
The more normal.
The more typical.